Hi there, welcome back to Nico Talks Hockey. Today, I want to start my rankings at every position in the NHL. Today, we'll be going over the top 20 goalies, but in future videos, I'll be going over top 20 defensemen, top 20 centers, top wingers in the NHL, who are the best GMs and the coaches, all that. I want to go over my personal rankings, and we're going to cover who I think are the best of the best in the NHL. We're going to start at 20 and go all the way up to 1. So we're going to get better with each, as we go up the list. How do I do these rankings? Well, I include as a sample size the past 3 seasons, right? So I don't want to just cover last season. I think that'd be too, recency bias of me. And then the 2 seasons, I don't know if that fully covers the scope. So I want to do a 3-season sample size with the most previous season, the most recent season, having more weight, holding more weight than the 2 seasons before it. So without further ado, and now understanding how the rankings are going to go, at number 20 of the best goalies in the world, I have at number 20 Dustin Wolf of the Calgary Flames. Dustin Wolf, it's hard because he's only had 1 season in the NHL. He's been in the AHL for a little bit, but in terms of the NHL, he's only had 1 season, this past one. So how can you properly rank him? You don't have to have 3 seasons in the NHL, but the larger the sample size, the better. So with him only having 1 season, I couldn't put him any higher than 20th, but he had such an impressive season last season that I had to put him on this list. He is going to be one day, maybe number 1, but I think at least a top 5 goalie, in his prime. I think he'll be a top 5 goalie of the current generation he'll be playing in. He impressed me so much. I really wanted the Flames to make the playoffs last season just because of how impressed I was of his play. But at number 20, he comes in there. At number 19, maybe a little controversial, but I have Darcy Kuemper. Darcy Kuemper is someone who had such a great bounce back season last season. He was nominated for the Vezina, which is just awesome. I was never that low on Kuemper, even when he had some, a few poor seasons, so to speak, before last season. I always remained kind of high on Kuemper, and that I knew he would bounce back eventually. For some people, maybe they would see this as recency bias, but I just see it as Kuemper returning to form because I think he's a great goalie. At number 18, Logan Thompson of the Washington Capitals. What a season he had. I mean, definitely, the first half was better than the second half, but still, remarkable season. In the playoffs, he was quite good as well. He is finally out of the shadow, of Aiden Hill in Vegas, and he's able to show what he's got, and he's impressing everyone. So very happy for him in Washington. He comes at number 18. At number 17, Anthony Stolarz in Toronto. I love Stolarz. Just on a personal level, I think he's from what I've seen of him, he seems like a really good guy. And I just love how he has such a calm presence in net. He doesn't move around too much. He just does what he's got to do. He's not flying all over the place. And he doesn't ever seem to get the credit that he, deserves. He was a backup, all of his career, and now he's gotten a chance to be like a potential even 1A in Toronto. He'll have he has the tandem with Woll, but, if he can stay healthier than Woll, which he did for a large part of this past season, he can absolutely maybe usurp that 1A position and really keep proving to everyone how really good he is. He comes at number 17 for me. At number 16, Joey Daccord of the Seattle Kraken. I'm so high on Joey Daccord. If he was on a better team than Seattle, he'd be way more loved and way more justly ranked, in my opinion. I think he's awesome. I think that he's also real young, so he's got a ton of career ahead of him. If the Seattle Kraken did not have Joey Daccord on their team, they would have been probably a bottom 3 team last season, because just not enough there, but Daccord kept them somewhat afloat. But yeah, and moving on to number 15, Stolarz' tandem partner, Joseph Woll. Number 15 is Woll in Toronto. He's awesome. Woll is different from Stolarz. He definitely moves around a little bit more. But he's still confident. Like, he exudes confidence. He exudes knowing that he, most of the time, he's got it covered. He's also, that rare breed of goalie that gets even better in the playoffs. I maintain the stance that if he was not, he didn't get injured in that final Game 7 against Boston 2 seasons ago in the playoffs, I think that the Toronto, would have won that game and moved on. But, Boston won it fair and square. But I think Woll, I just say that because I want to get the point across that I think Woll is just so great. He's only going to get better. He's just got to, the injuries. The injuries is really what keeps him from reaching maybe the top, into the top 10 of goalies. But he's young, he's got time, and Toronto may have the best tandem goalie position in the league. At number 14, Aiden Hill, Stanley Cup champion Aiden Hill of the Vegas Golden Knights. They chose him over Logan Thompson, and for good reason. I think he's better than Thompson, even if just marginally. And they used him for the majority of the time when they went on their cup run in 2023. Hill is awesome. Now, he does have bouts of inconsistency. He does have moments where it's like, wait a sec, what's going on? Is he injured? I think it's just inconsistent play. But for a majority of the time, Aiden Hill is a great caliber of goalie, and the Vegas Golden Knights have a good one. Moving on to number 13, someone who, although I don't dislike many players, but I do dislike this player, but I will give him the credit he deserves, Jordan Binnington. Jordan Binnington, you can say a lot about him as a person, but you cannot take away who he is as a goalie. He's a fantastic goalie. He's still a fantastic goalie. St. Louis Blues, if they had a better defense, I think people would year in, year out accept him, as the goalie, that he is in terms of rankings and tier lists and all that. Jordan Binnington deserves to be in these talks that are borderline top 10 goalies. He proved it at the Four Nations, how good he was, that he is Mr. Clutch. When the moment gets big, he stays with it. He does not, crawl away and hide like he does during fights. I didn't say it. Jordan Binnington is a fantastic goalie, and he should be the number 1 goalie come Olympics time for Canada, because he just knows how to perform in those clutch and, big time situations. At number 12, Jacob Markstrom of the New Jersey Devils. Markstrom, probably the worst thing you could say about him is his inconsistency. He has moments of brilliance and then moments of like, why is he a starting goaltender? But those moments of brilliance are so good that you have to put him this high, at least in my opinion. Jacob Markstrom helped the Devils win at least, win one game during this past playoffs against Carolina. He was the only reason that they stayed in it even a little bit. It was absolutely going to be a sweep without him. I hope that the Devils can reward him, next season, and build the team a little bit better around him, because when he's on, he is a fantastic, great goaltender. Last one before our top 10, we've got Anderson, Freddy Anderson, of the Carolina Hurricanes. He re-ups with Carolina. He's going to stay in Carolina. I think that's good for him. I think he thrives well in that system. But Freddy Anderson would undoubtedly be a top 10 goalie. He'd probably crouch upon top 5, if not for injuries. His injuries really hamper him, and you have to take that into account when you're doing these rankings. But and I know he has some games where it's like, oh my God, he's so off. But he has so many games where he's so locked in, so dialed in, that he deserves to be 11th here on this list. At number 10, this is really tough. I almost had him outside top 10 because, again, of injuries. But I have Thatcher Demco. He's got a really bad knee problem, right? But when he is not injured, when he's playing healthily, there's no question about it. There's no doubts that he's a top 10 goalie. Thatcher Demko, and I guess that's what Vancouver Canucks are betting on, right? They trade Shilovs away, not for enough, but they lose Shilovs and they have their backup in Lankinen, so they're banking on, I guess, their medical team. Maybe they've assessed it and made their own conclusions that Thatcher Demko is going to be okay for the most part, and he'll be able to be their number one starter now and in the future. I hope so, because it's awesome to watch Demko when he's at work. He is just, it's almost like prime Fleury out there when he's making, glove saves and he's making the impossible look possible. It's pretty incredible to watch Demko out there. Moving on to number 9, someone who's definitely dropped because of the past season and a half, I'd say. I have Jussi Stolarz of the Nashville Predators. Jussi Stolarz, I was so high on for so long, and I'm still high on him. I mean, some people probably have him outside the top 10 now. But, with the 3-year sample size, Jussi Stolarz still deserves to be a top 10 goalie. He did have a down season this past season, but Nashville had a down season, like a really bad season. So I don't hold all of it against Stolarz. He's on the smaller side, so that'll always be against him. It helps to be bigger when you're a goalie. But Stolarz, I still believe in a lot, and I'm hoping for a bounce-back season for him. I think he's really cool. At number 8, I have Ilya Sorokin of the New York Islanders. Someone that, oh man, just for a while, he was in, maybe he was the best goalie. Some people had him, a lot of Islanders fans, but I had him at least in my top 3 for a little while there. The Islanders have struggled, and, it hasn't helped Sorokin's bid to try and stay in that, elite tier of goalies. But Sorokin's fantastic. I love his mechanics. I love the way he moves. He's a fantastic goalie. I know I've said that a million times, fantastic goalie. But no, Ilya Sorokin, he deserves all his flowers and probably more. I am looking forward to the day that I think that Patrick Waugh is no longer the coach in the Isle, because I don't think that he values Sorokin's play to the level that it deserves to be valued. At number 7, top 7 here, Magnificent 7, someone who's dropped a little bit. He was probably top 5 before this past season, but he still deserves to be here. That is Jeremy Swayman of the Boston Bruins. Jeremy Swayman, I still believe, is a really good goalie. Like, really good. But Boston struggled, and he struggled, and it was not really his fault. Boston was being cheap. Their owner and, was not willing to, pay the price of having a top, elite goalie, and they sat him out for training camp, or he sat out of training camp, and, he didn't spend all that time getting ready that everyone else was doing, right? So if he had, I think he would have had a fine season, but he struggled a bit just because of, all the shenanigans that was, the training camp and the preseason and all that. So I have no doubts. I think that he will bounce back. I don't know, how much, but he will absolutely have a better season. I'm booking on it. I'm betting on it. Come next season, Swayman will improve in the rankings, I'm sure. Moving on to top 6, the final goalie who will not be in the top 5. This is a goalie I personally love. This is Olmark, Linus Olmark of the Ottawa Senators. I don't know why Buffalo ever traded him, but add him to the long list of players that they should have never traded. Olmark is awesome. He was on for Team Sweden at Four Nations. I know that some fans may have some concerns about him in clutch situations, that maybe he's not the best when it comes to the playoffs, but I disagree. I think he's great. I think that, like any goalie, you can have a bad game, but I blame some of Ottawa's failures there at the end on the system and, them not helping out Olmark. I do not blame it really on him. I think that he has the capacity, he's a Vezina winner, former Vezina winner. He's awesome. He just misses the top 5 because, the next 5 I think are the most elite goalies in the world, but Olmark is still a goalie I'd love to have on my team. And to start the top 5, at number 5, some would say that this goalie maybe deserves to be number 1 because of his playoff play. And hey, his playoff play is some of the best in the game. But I'm going to have him here at number 5. It's Jake Oettinger of the Dallas Stars. Jake Oettinger got a bad beat from Pete DeBoer. Absolutely should not have been treated that way. And Stars organization recognized that and got Pete DeBoer out of there. Who are you going to choose? Your coach or your franchise, goalie, number 1 goalie? They made the right decision in keeping Oettinger. Now, he's not always the most consistent when it comes to regular season play. His numbers are not spectacular. But when it comes to the playoffs, which is the most important, it's what you play for. Play for the Stanley Cup. There may be no one better than Oettinger. It's a 3-year sample and I have to encompass all of it, regular season and playoffs. But playoffs hold a lot of weight. And I put Oettinger at number 5 just because of his amazing play in playoffs. He seems to always put teams on his back. And Oettinger is fantastic. At number 4, definitely shot up the rankings because of the past 2 seasons. It is Sergei Bobrovsky of the Florida Panthers. Some people would have him at number 1 because, the results speak for themselves. He's a 2-time Stanley Cup winner. He's won at least 2 Vezinas. Has he won 3? I don't know. I think it's just 2. But, he was criticized so much and the Florida Panthers were criticized so much because of his contract. $10 million. He signed for 7 or 8 years. And it was for a long time, it was like, oh my God, this is one of the worst contracts in the NHL. And it still is not an amazing contract, but it's worth it because the Florida Panthers have won back-to-back Stanley Cups now. Sergei Bobrovsky is someone who, just like Jake Oettinger, but at an even greater level, performs when it is game time. When it is time, when the lights are brightest, it's do or die. Sergei Bobrovsky is there. He does not let you down. And that's why he is number 4. But moving on to the top 3, I think these 3, in my opinion, I think it's pretty easy to say that these 3 goalies are still the best 3. You can change up the order. It's not like a concrete set in stone, but I think these 3 should be the top 3. At number 3, I have Andrei Vasilevskiy of the Tampa Bay Lightning. I had the most respect for Vasilevskiy. I was in awe during those Lightning championships of how he was playing, like everyone else was. He is in my top 10 goalies of all time. I think that his prime, I still think that he's obviously I have him at number 3 still. He's still an unbelievable goalie. He's not quite at the prime that he was during those championships. He's gotten injured since then, and maybe the Lightning's systems have not been the best. But there's no denying that Vasilevskiy was and still is an elite goalie that every team is always looking for. He has the ability to be calm in net, but then he's like they call him Big Cat for a reason. He has unbelievable reflexes, those behind the back glove saves. He's making saves everywhere. And he sometimes looks like how can you expect any pucks to go past him when he's in net? He's that dominant. But moving into our top 2, there's only 2 goalies left. You probably know them. But which way do we put him? What positions do we put him? At number 2, the back-to-back Vezina winner, Connor Hellebuyck. I can't put Connor Hellebuyck at 1. And you know why? Because of his playoff play. It's not at the level that some of these other goalies on this list are at. They are at another level. Connor Hellebuyck is okay, especially in home games. But he's not number 1 worthy. Now, with that said, he's an unbelievable goalie. Connor Hellebuyck, at least during the regular season, he is the best goalie in the world. There is no goalie on planet Earth that is better than Connor Hellebuyck when he's at the top of his game. Again, like Vasilevsky, you wonder how our puck's ever going to get past him. He's going to, have a shutout for like 10 straight games. He's so great. If he could, one day elevate his playoff play to the level that some of these other goalies are at, like Vasilevsky, like Bobrovsky, then he will probably become number 1. But until then, the number 1 spot belongs to Igor Shesterkin of the New York Rangers. Shesterkin, the reason I put Shesterkin number 1 is because I think that he perfectly balances regular season elite play with the playoffs elite play. He ascends in the playoffs, he gets even better, but he's no slouch in the regular season, right? Like maybe some of the other goalies that are on this list. So, he's a dog when it comes to the regular season. He won me one year my fantasy league just because of how awesome he was. And then in the playoffs, he'll go to just another level, and he'll still be that great. His New York Rangers teammates have failed him at times, and he's had to quite literally put the team on his back. I don't know if there's any other goalie on this list that puts his respective team on their back as much as Igor Shesterkin does at times, because he sometimes just wins playoff games by himself. So for that reason, I have Igor Shesterkin at number 1, and that has been my top 20 goalies in the NHL for 2025. Thank you so much for watching. If you could like and subscribe, that would mean the world to me. Next video, I'll be ranking the top 20 defensemen in the entire NHL. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.